Morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today to today's webinar. As Jonathan mentioned, we're going to be looking at the highlights in version 17 of RMS Utilities. I've prepared a small agenda that we can quickly run through. First of all, we'll look at we'll do a quick recap of what's in version 16, the current release, for those people tuning in that are not that have maybe not seen or heard of utilities before. And then we'll get straight to the new features and have one or two demos that I prepared for you. And then towards the end, we'll talk about availability and support, things like license keys, commercial aspects, those kind of things. And then my colleague Mustafa Hussain will be joining us on the channel today to answer any questions that may arise through today's webinar. So let's just have a quick recap of what's been in utilities over the good few years now that we've been running this program. Utilities, as you may know, builds on what is out of the box with RMS Store and HQ. So there's many gaps in that feature set and many verticals that aren't quite correctly addressed. So we've built in a number of utilities, and we're tending to bring more into that module for ease of maintenance, those kind of things. So some of the things I've pulled out today that may be of interest are to talk about briefly are the advanced purchase order processing. So again, that plugs into HQ and Store normal purchase order processing and extends it to cover things like invoice matching, so you can reconcile invoices against the original order and against individual deliverers as well. Gift loyalty has been very popular, awarding the customers either points or like a dollar value on account, issuing sort of vouchers, those kind of things. And then we have some wizards that again fill in some of the gaps that are in the core product around the item properties, again giving you the retailer much more flexibility and clarity over some of the properties there that you may want to change en masse. We have the fashion bundle that works with matrix items, around the coding of them, printing and sort of searching of matrix items. So that's been very popular. And then we have the picking and packing and scan to bag module, which is in utilities now. So any retailers that are heavily involved in sort of back-end operations with the warehouse to do with shipping of either internet orders or mail order processes, that's a module that complements and fills in some gaps there. We have the item sync utility that attempts to sort of pair up items that may be created down at store by mistake in a HQ environment. And likewise, we have the global customer update utility, which that allows you to update the global properties, but from store, so you can access that directly from the POS. Accounts receivable adds additional functionality to what's already there in RMS around statements, emailing statements to customers, and also taking payments at HQ. And of course, we have e-receipt, which we've introduced to email electronic receipts to customers, again linking to the customer record at the time of the transaction at the POS. With that module, and a lot of these modules, you get a built-in designer. That's what you see is what you get, and you can move objects around and customize it. Again, adding value to the retailer and helping them sort of maximize their return on investment from utilities and the whole kind of RMS suite. Lot and batch tracking. Anyone that's interested in that or needs to track expiry dates of product, again, we have some functionality around that area. And the last one I pulled up is the buyback. So if you're dealing with colleges, educational institutions that maybe take back textbooks at the end of the semester, we have some functionality that effectively deal in second-hand items and help sort of manage those processes. And there's many more that I have time to really mention today. So what's new? What we're going to be talking about today in detail, a little bit more detail, is we have 7 features that we've introduced, either from existing sort of standalone modules or brand new functionality. We have the first on the list is the item component sync utility. That addresses some of the shortcomings in RMS around kit and assembly items. We have a taskpad utility, which again fills in some gaps, and I'll show you that in a second. And we also have introduced the customer price matrix. So this was a standalone module for a period of time, and we've brought this into utilities now to streamline the deployment and upgrade and sort of hook maintenance. So that's going to be the main focus of today's session. And then, as Jonathan mentioned at the front there, at the start there, we've broken the session down into 2 parts. The next part will be dealing with the touch functionality. So that's kind of rich touch button set experience at the POS for anyone in like a semi-hospitality stroke retail environment there. And then we have archiving, so if your databases are getting a bit on the big side, you can strip out some of the data and save that to an archiving database, either a store or a HQ. And then lastly, we've added, again, more rich functionality around weights and measures, so anyone in a supermarket environment deploying counter scales at the POS, we've increased the functionality there, and also we have a certification that's been approved in the APAC Australia region. So that's some of the new functionality we'll be talking about. Let's just get started. We'll be looking at the quick overview on the component sync utility. So as I mentioned, this utility helps out around assembly and kit items. And some of the shortfalls that have been in the product for a number of years now with Microsoft RMS, when you make changes at HQ to existing assemblies or kits, adding some components, they don't reflect down at store. So it's okay creating it the first time, but then making changes can cause some issues. And likewise changing the component quantities. And with kits, very similar. If you add or delete a kit component once it's been created, that doesn't flow down to store as it really should do. So we've addressed some of this functionality gaps in this utility. So just to give you a brief sort of overview on this, or a little bit more detail I should say, it's very easy to set up. You just point the store to the IP address of the HQ server, the RR server, and then you can enable the functionality. And then what you would do is you'd periodically run this sync function here, and then it makes a direct connection using a web service, and then sort of you know, resolves any issues that it finds there. Moving on to the next of the 3 utilities we're going to be talking today is the taskpad. So again, this is again a small utility, but a very crucial one if you have many stores and you rely upon the built-in taskpad functionality at the POS. So just to sort of quickly look at what is the taskpad for those that may not know. It's functionality that Microsoft brought in one of the recent feature packs. Not so long ago, you know, relatively recently, and out of the box they give you some like a default template. So if you go ahead and make some changes either to some colors or some of the wording, or you employ lots and lots of buttons, you know, very complex solutions, and you have, you know, multiple stores, there's currently no functionality to translate one set down to the different stores. So what we've done is we've provided a very simple export-import utility where what you would do is you would nominate one of your stores to be like the master, and then you would set up your button sets there, and then you can export out from that store into an XML file. And then once you've got that, you then sort of distribute that to your stores, and then they can run the very simple import function and then that would recreate the button sets within the taskpad within the local store database. So a very, again, very straightforward, but again, very crucial if you're continually making changes and you have many stores. So moving on to customer price matrix, this will be the main focus of today's demo. As I mentioned, I've got sort of 4 or 5 demos lined up for you that will be exploring some of the functionality here. Just looking at what, I guess, why we developed this module. Let's look at the problem that I guess the gaps that exist within RMS currently. So in terms of items and pricing, RMS only has 3 price levels, A, B, and C. And obviously you nominate any given customer to one of those levels. We have in addition to that, you have the broad sort of % off per customer. But there's no real way of grouping customers. You can't say I've got customer group A or customer group B, or customers in this zip code or this state get this pricing. There's no real way of doing that. So, and likewise, there's no real way of managing that across different departments, categories, you know, sort of item groups. And there's no real way of tracking what you give, the incentives you give to certain key individuals. So if the pricing is all ad hoc for every individual, again, that is not the best way of doing that within RMS for given items. So the solution is customer price matrix, or what I'll be calling CPM. Pricing can be defined based on either department, category, or item. So as I mentioned, you can say, you know, for this given department, the pricing is going to be X, or this category, I'd like X% off for these customer groups. We can group the customers either by account type. That's the sort of main grouping tool that we use. So again, building on the built-in functionality that's in RMS. Or we can just pick out individual customers and say they're going to get this pricing structure. Pricing can be based upon the quantity purchased. So we can have, very similar to RMS, we can have different price breaks, 1 to 10, 11 to 20. And we can have these matrices, these pricing agreements, if you like. They can be set to expire on a given date or left to run infinitum. And then we have, once all that's in place, we have a couple of wizards for managing the expiry dates and the pricing en masse. And of course there are some reports. So just looking at things in a bit more detail now, pricing can be set in a number of ways, 6 or 7 ways. We can say we'll give this, we'll set this price to be an absolute value like $1 or $10 relative to what the normal price is. We can set pricing to be a given percentage discount, so 10% off, 20% off. Or we can say I'd like an offset pricing, so whatever the normal price is, we'll say I'd like $1 off that price. We can do markup from cost, so the example there is cost, say, plus 10%. Or we can set the gross margin, again using the cost price as a reference there. And we can use the replacement cost as well. That's another tool in the box there. Or the MSRP. We can do a % markup from that. Before we look at the demos, it might be interesting to look at the hierarchy, how all this kind of hooks together. So if we look at a given scenario, you know, traditional, we have a department, we have a category, and an item. If they're not part of our CPM, then obviously the discount when the items are scanned is going to be a flat rate, 0, and just default to whatever other rules are in place with standard RMS. But if we say what we want to do here is have a couple of different structures. So what we may want to do is have a department, say Department 2. We'd like to, for this group of customers, we would like to offer 10%. And then obviously if an item is scanned in that department, then the discount would be 10% for that item. But then if we come along and create a second CPM, second matrix or agreement, then we can say, well, this individual category, we can, maybe we've got a bit more margin on this one, we can offer a slightly better percentage discount. Then any items scanned that belong to that category would get the 20% discount. And then for individual items, we can have a third agreement that says, if this item is scanned, we'd like to offer 30%, and that's the discount that will be scanned. Or it could be that we don't have much margin on that item, the cost price, so we have to sell it near cost. So maybe we could take off the discount on that individual item altogether. So that's the hierarchy, and it helps to keep that in mind when you're designing your matrices and when testing them at the POS. So we have a short demo now. What I've done is, what we'll do today is we'll pretend that we have a tailspin database here, and we can pretend we are a sports shop, and we're going to set up some CPMs based upon the local tennis club members. So if we log into, this is logging into the back end of utility. And for people that are tuning in that have used utilities before, this is version 17, so you can see there's not a huge interface change, so it makes retraining quite straightforward. It's just the new functionality and features that you'll see. So for instance, we have the CPM matrix sort of tab down here on the standard tab. That's how you would access this functionality that we're talking about today. So the main link that's used is setting up price types, or the actual matrix. And we can, this screen shows here, we can set them up by customer or by account type. So we're going to use the account type one today. And we're going to set up three, one of each, one for department, one for category, and one for item. So first of all, we choose the tennis club. So it's prompting us for the with a list of account types. So I'm going to use the account type tennis club, which all my customers belong to. And then I go ahead and choose click a new matrix. So I'm going to choose the department, the sporting goods department. So everything basically that we sell there that's of interest. And I'm going to set up a very simple price type today, just a standard 10% discount. So everything in sports, they get 10% off. So what CPM allows you to do is, when those items are sold, it would tag a reason code against those items. So I've chosen one there for the sports club, and I'm going to disable the expiry date just for the demo. I mentioned that you can have these CPMs expire. So we're going to just tab back now to the category and do something very similar to the category. And if the sports people, if the tennis club people buy within the sporting goods tennis category, then they'll get 20% discount. So we're going to just pop that onto the transaction. And we're going to choose a different reason code for that one. Okay, just pop that on there, and then we're just going to scroll back and lastly set up an item. So we have some tennis balls, and if they buy packs of 4, what we're going to do is set up 30%. So again, we'll just search for the tennis ball pack there. Normal price of $10. And if they buy 0 and above, then we can set up 30%. Now you can see there on the right hand side, it shows for the items, it exposes the RMS item properties. So you can see normally $10, and that helps when setting these discounts, just so you can kind of check that your pricing is actually going to be sensible for what you're trying to set up. So we just go ahead and click finish, and then click back and cancel, and then we're ready to show you what happens at the POS. So that's the back end setup now. I'll just bring up the POS. So just logging into the POS now. I've set up a customer called Greg, and he's going to be our tennis club member for the day. Just click on properties and make sure he's set up. Yep, he's set up for tennis club on the account type. So I add him to the transaction, and Greg's going to buy a football. He's going to buy a few items today. He's going to buy a football, and then you'll see he gets the 10% discount there. That's normally $10, so it's gone down to $9. And then he's going to buy a tennis racket, so we scan that onto the transaction. And the price of that is normally $100, so it's given him the 20%. And then likewise with the tennis balls, he's got the 30% discount there. We'll just go ahead and tender that. Okay, just shifting gears back to our demo, our PowerPoint. So next I just want to, that's just for based upon account type. What we can do now is what we can say, well, hang on, we've got some individual people, maybe a tennis pro or an employee or the owner or some extended family, you know, whatever your business rules are, we can give individual pricing now to individual people. So we'll go ahead and look at that. Okay, so we basically choose an individual now. Okay, let's just run through that again. So we first of all choose Greg. He's our tennis pro, and then we pull out some items from the database, or an item. I'm going to choose the premium tennis balls now, normally $20. And here I'm going to just quickly show you how you can sort of make the matrix a little bit more complex if you need to. So you can basically mix and match. If I hold the slide there now, you can see you've got the different pricing models that we mentioned earlier. So you've got special price, percent discount, amount off, etc. So if he buys up to 4 units, then he'll get the normal 30% off. And then if it's 4 and above, then what we're going to do is actually give him an absolute value price of $12.50. And then to designate that, we'll give him his own reason code. We'll call it the pro price for being a tennis pro. So we have the, we click finish, and then we just run that back. And that's pretty much the back end setup. And just quickly shift gears to the POS now and just log in. Okay, so I've added Greg to our transaction. Okay, so he's bought one set of tennis balls. He's bought 2 sets. You can see the price is $14 there. And then when we add the 4th one to the transaction, we then drop down to the absolute price of $12.50. And then he can go ahead and tender that, and he's on his way. Okay, so that's specific customer price. A few more features now we have built in. In addition to offering these discounts, we can actually limit them. So if you're in an environment where maybe it's an employee scheme where you say to your employees, look, you know, we can give you really good pricing for the products, but we unfortunately we have to have a limit to that. Maybe it's a service that you want to limit. Or it could be an individual product with a dollar value. So we have some functionality that I'll show you now based around that. So we can limit, as I mentioned, by quantity or revenue, so number of items or actual dollar value. We can set up a scheme per account type. And then we can also set up some parameters if you need to offer some flexibility at the POS. Maybe you need to be able to override it in certain circumstances. The balance, so if it's a dollar value balance, then that will be available at the POS. And then once the limit has been reached or the time expiry has been met, then the pricing defaults back to the regular price. So to show you a quick demo of this, we have set up today. We're again back in the back-end part of utilities. And what we first of all need to do, so the scenario today is going to be a staff limit scheme. So we're just going to check that we've actually got the discount side of things set up first of all. So I'm going to go into the regular price type screen that you saw earlier, and there's one we did earlier. So what we're doing here is within the sporting goods department, the staff are allowed up to 50% off any goods there, which I think is a pretty fair deal. So that's that side of things set up. And then what we need to do next is we can set up the actual purchase limit. So once we've gone through this screen, we can click cancel and then make a new purchase limit. So we click new, and then we can choose an individual account type that we want to deal with here. So we choose the staff account type, and then we can click on enforce limits. And again, we can base it upon number of units. So you may say, well, you know, within this, within our CPM, you're allowed to buy up to 10 units or 100 units, or have 100 goes of something, and then it will expire. Or it can be a dollar value, which is what we're going to do today. So we'll click on here and key in $100. Okay. And then the way this limit works is once the expiry has actually been reached, we reset the account type. So again, we've got the ability to customize that and choose an account. So what I've done, I've actually set up an account called staff expired, so we can accurately track which staff have expired. So we've done that. We switch now to the POS. What we're going to do first of all is just quickly create a new staff member. So just type in Miss new staff member, and we can obviously go back and fill out the rest of the details later. But the key thing is we set the account type here. So I'm going to choose staff. Okay, and we're going to add that person to the transaction. And then this person's going to buy some items now. So they're going to buy a football, maybe some tennis items as well. You can see it's given the 50% discount straight away, so the racket's coming in at $50 as opposed to $100. And then we have a purchase value there of $60, and then we go ahead and tender that. And then we can add that person back to the transaction for the second time and add some more items. But first we have this custom button here, which we can see the available limit. So it's showing the $40 balance there, or available limit I should say. And it also lists out nicely what they've purchased in the past under this scheme. So you can immediately deal with any queries if there's a query about why have I reached my limit. So what we'll do now is we'll add some more tennis balls, and then we'll try and tender this, and you can see it allows us to tender because it's under the limit. But the moment we go over the limit, then it'll be flagged up to say your limit has been reached. So reminding you that you only have $40 to spend. So again, very good for the staff environment, for government, for all sorts of concession type verticals where you need to employ those limits. So just switching back to the rest of our demo for rest of our session for today. The last feature within CPM that I just quickly want to mention. This is very good for the single store. This is called POS Matrix. So this is where retailers want to match prices on the fly. So if you have customers that are continually giving price matching and discounts to their various customers, this is the tool for the job here. So it's a very simple pricing setup. You don't have to go into any back office. You can do it right from the POS, and then next time the pricing is remembered for that customer. Once the price match has been set, you can edit it in the back office. And I must point out here, this is not for a HQ environment. This is just for single store only. So to show you this in action, our fifth and final demo for today. Thanks for keeping with us. We're back at the POS. And we've added this customer called David Simpson. He's interested in buying a football. The normal price is $10. But he mentions that somebody down the road is giving this a better price. So we can actually look at his price and maybe beat it. So maybe he comes in and it's $8 and we want to offer him the price at maybe $7.70. So we can scan the item, and right here at the POS we can give David a better price. So we just go ahead and create the matrix here. So I'm going to type in $7.70. The expiry date defaults as per the back-end configuration. And now when I scan the item on the transaction, it gives him the discount and gives me a special reason code. Again, I configure that in the back office. So I can go ahead and tender that. And then if I add David back onto the transaction, the next time he comes in and buys a football, he will get that price as well. Or I can delete that from the matrix, or make a small adjustment, maybe even better that for the second time. Okay. So that's the POS matrix in action. Again, very good for very dynamic environments, and again you can see all these at the back office after the fact. So just to sort of start bringing things to a close now, we just want to talk lastly about just one or two other features that we have in store, just to sort of enable CPM to be tailored for different needs at the POS. We can make things like expiry date, they can be made optional or mandatory. We can have the system also check lower bounds, so if you've deployed a CPM and then somebody comes along and updates the lower bound, we can have it check that, or we can have it bypass that. We can, some retailers like the discount to be applied as the items are scanned. For instance, if you've got a poll display, you really want to be showing those discounts in real time. Or other people really want to be, really like to sort of show the discount at the final tender stage. If maybe you've got a HTML sort of customer-facing display, then that's going to be reflected on there. We can force CPM prices, even maybe they're not the best price for the customer. Maybe there's a sale price in operation, and we can have this automatic price match mode that we mentioned. Reason codes can be optional or mandatory. And then for the given scenario where you've maybe given your customer some other benefits, and you really don't want them to give them the CPM on this occasion, you can deploy a special reason code that will tell CPM to kind of skip that individual line item, which can be quite good. So some applications in the real world. Again, I mentioned the price matching. Very popular within business to business and sort of wholesale cash and carry type operations. Again, given different customer groups, different pricing groups, staff pricing, and also working with our loyalty scheme as well. That's also a big, kind of a big feature. And then I mentioned the staff limits, which we have the demo on. So to recap, Utilities 17. One or two things now. It's available free of charge if your BREP and BRAP, the customer's BREP and BRAP is kept up to date through Retail Realm. And again, you know, you can speak to your account manager for full details of that, and you know, reference any individual customer. If you're upgrading from version 15 onwards, there's no new license key, so version 17 will work with that individual key for that store or HQ, and there's obviously store and HQ versions available. When you're upgrading, if you have some standalone modules like RR Touch, RR Archiving, Gift Loyalty, or CPM from an older version, then those modules have to be deactivated so the utilities can start managing those, but a lot of the kind of profiles come across as part of the upgrade. Availability and support. The product will be available on our FTP site as usual. License keys, continue to speak to your partner account manager for license keys and any commercial questions. And then if you have any support around version 17, we welcome you to generate a support ticket at our Gemini site. There's the address on your screen now. And you can self-register. You don't need anybody to create a profile for you. And then you can submit a ticket and access, I guess, like a forum where there's self-support and also knowledge base and other materials. We have some other contacts here. You can contact our office at rrdisty.com/contact us. It's got all our regional offices on there. And our US resellers will be familiar with the people that from our US office, Jesus and Jed. And then, as I mentioned earlier, our support website address there.